Now we've got one more Bond event coming up here. And let's welcome back Dick Esom with what? James Bond stamps.
Hey, absolutely. Hey, guys.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to be back in the studio here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like your shirt.
Oh, seems all the rage these
Dick,
days.
you've had your 6th. The meme that we all learned.
Oh,
from.
right. Yes.
Yes.
Hopefully not. Otherwise,
I've
you're out of
got
bullets.
one more bullet left, and that'll be some things. Can we start the slides, please? So we're going to look at some James Bond on stamps here. So next slide, please. There we go. So this actually, let's look at the actors and the movies first of all. This actually is a set from the UK from only last year. This would have been ready for the premiere of No Time to Die, but of course COVID has pushed it till now. So this set came out, and basically what we've got here are the 6, the main actors that played James Bond. In chronological order, we've got Sir Sean Connery from 62 to 71, 6 films, actually, plus one more, which was Never Say Never Again, which wasn't done by Eon Productions. Right. Eon did all of the big Bond movies. We've got George Lazenby there, only did one movie in 1969 on Her Majesty's Secret Service. It's actually an Australian actor. Sir Roger Moore, of course, did 7 films from 73 to 85. Timothy Dalton, 87 to 89, 2 movies. Pierce Brosnan, 95 to 2002, 4 films. And then Daniel Craig, of course, our last Bond, 2006 to now, 5 movies. And I just read this morning he got his star on Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yes, he did.
Which is cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Next to?
I don't know. Who's it next to?
I think it's Connery.
Oh, is it next to Connery?
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, that's appropriate, isn't it?
Yes.
That's great. And then there is one obviously not here, and Sarah mentioned him, which is David Niven, who played James Bond in a non-Eon production of Casino Royale, which if anybody's seen it, came out in 1967. It's awful.
It's really awful.
It's really bad. It was meant to be a parody. I mean, it had Peter Sellers in it and Woody Allen, and it was just horrible. So don't waste your time with that. So this set was nice. This is 2 sets of 3 strips here, all the first-class stamps. So if we can move to the next slide, please.
I think that the last Connery one came out almost parallel with Dalton's.
Yeah, so I think Dalton did one, and then Connery came back and did another one.
Right on top
of it, yeah. So this also came out with that set. This is Q Branch, and of course, as we know, Q is actually mentioned in the books as Q Branch, but the person of Q, which was played by Desmond Llewellyn, in, would you believe, 17 films.
Yep, that's an incredible run.
Right, fantastic. Q stands for quartermaster, so that's the guy that looks after all the stores. These are the toys, and we've got here at the top left the Lotus Esprit S1 submarine, which was called Wet Nelly. From The Spy Who Loved Me, and it was called Wet Nelly because it was a parrot or a spoof, if you like, of the name of the autogyro from You Only Live Twice, which was called Little Nelly. And then we've got the Bell Textron rocket belt from Thunderball, the famous iconic DB5, of course, from Goldfinger originally, and then of course in Skyfall, somewhat inexplicably, but we're all pleased to see it back, right? But it actually makes a cameo appearance in many of the films, either in the opening sequence or somehow. So this is actually a very cool set. And interestingly, can you just click once, please? You'll notice actually in the perforations is 007, which I've never seen anything like that.
Wow.
I think that's very, very cool. And it has even one more trick to it. Next slide, please. That if you look at it under ultraviolet light, you'll see that a whole bunch of text is actually displayed that tells you about some of the cool features of the thing. So, for example, the Lotus has underwater smoke and ink screen, front-mounted underwater rockets, surface-to-air missiles, and limpet mines, which is awesome. And the DB5, of course, we know has machine guns in the front, revolving number plates.
Has anyone else done something like this?
With ultraviolet stamps? Normally, ultraviolet is used. So normally in postage stamps, it's often to put a phosphor strip on the stamp, which helps the sorting machines align the envelopes. Okay. so that the address is the right way up. And that's only detectable under ultraviolet light.
Wow.
I actually had to get this picture off the internet because my ultraviolet light is a US one, and the UK uses a different phosphor. You need a different frequency of ultraviolet light.
Wow.
So mine isn't, it kind of displays it, but not very well.
Very cool.
Yeah, but it is actually awesome. Many years ago, I had, as a young lad, I had a Corgi James Bond DB5 model. And it had little buttons on it, and you could pop up the bulletproof screen, and the machine guns would pop out. And had a little ejector seat and things like that.
Very cool.
Quite cool, yeah. So the toys are great, right? That's what we like to see. Is all of the gadgets and things that Bond has. So those are the actors in the movies. If we can go to the next slide, please. We can actually look at Ian Fleming himself. So Ian Fleming, this was a set produced by the UK in 2008 for the birth centenary of Ian Fleming. And it's a nice little souvenir sheet of 6 stamps. And it's interesting because each stamp covers one of the books, okay? And then, as we noticed, there's a little bit of German in the bottom left. That's actually part of the souvenir sheet. And inexplicably, at the top right, it says octopus curry. And that must be something in one of the books. I have to look that up to see which book that might be in. Probably, one of the Jamaica books, probably Dr. No, I would think, or something like that.
Yeah, well, there was one of the female stars was...
it was Octopussy.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, so what we've got here is... the books here, and we have top left is Casino Royale, of course, the first book, 1953. We've got Dr. No, 1958, Goldfinger, 59, Diamonds Are Forever in 56, For Your Eyes Only in 1960, and then From Russia with Love in 1957. Interestingly, For Your Eyes Only was actually a collection of 5 short stories, one of which was For Your Eyes Only. The others were View to a Kill, which was originally published as, I think Sarah mentioned, the Daily Express. It was originally published as James Bond and the Murder Before Breakfast. That collection also had Quantum of Solace, which was originally published in Cosmopolitan. A story called Rizzico, which was originally published in the Daily Express as The Double Take. And a story called The Hildebrand Rarity, which was originally published in Playboy. So anyway, so it's not just one book, it's 5 short stories. So those are the books. And then the other set that I want to show you, next slide, please, this is The Life of Ian Fleming. This is actually from Alderney, which is a little tiny island in the British Channel Islands, part of the bailiwick of Guernsey. And they produce some nice stamps. This actually came out in 2014, which was the 50th anniversary of the death of Ian Fleming. And so basically they cover his life from the first 2 stamps focus on his role as a commander of naval intelligence during World War II, having been recruited as the personal assistant to the Director of Naval Intelligence of the Royal Navy at the outset of the war. The 3rd stamp there, the 55p stamp, actually is Fleming in his Jamaican home, which we know is called Goldeneye, where he wrote all the books. And then the next one is covers Casino Royale, which is in 52. And there he is with his son Caspar, who was also born in 52. That's his only son. And then the last 2 cover his role as a journalist and writer, both at home in London and obviously abroad. And then following the war, he actually became the foreign manager of Kemsley newspapers and traveled to many countries, where he gained inspiration, of course, for all these far-flung locations that we get in the Bond movies. They're so iconic. And then the next slide also came out with this set. This is a really nice souvenir sheet. It's a £3 stamp, which is actually, it's that $4. It's actually a big one. So this complements those previous stamps, and it's actually, here's Ian Fleming behind the wheel of a blower Bentley, which I know Jacques will know, is a 1930 supercharged 240 horsepower, 4.5 litre racing car. And the picture was taken by Veteran Life magazine photographer Loomis Dean.
And the blower actually refers to the supercharger.
The supercharger on the front, which you can see there just above the number plate, because the designer of the Bentley refused to modify the design to have the supercharger inside the hood. So it's on the outside, which is crazy. Okay. Scary looking car to drive, I would imagine, actually. So interestingly, many people may not know this, that Ian Fleming also wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah, really?
I did not know
Yes.
that.
Wow.
He wrote it for his son, Casper, in 1964. And the car was based on a series of aero-engined racing cars, in other words, cars with engines from aeroplanes, which is even scarier, I think, that were actually called Chitty Bang Bang by a British racing car fanatic called Lewis Zabrowski in the 1920s. And actually, Fleming gave Bond a Bentley 4.5-litre convertible in the early novels, but then replaced it with the Aston Martin.
Interesting.
So yeah, there's lots of mystery in these, right?
Yeah, there sure is.
Yeah. So this is all the really good James Bond stamps. Obviously, they all came out of the UK or its bits. But I would be remiss in not mentioning others. If we just go to the next slide, please. I'll call these the bandwagon jumpers. So I call them bandwagon jumpers because they are normally from third world countries that issue stamps for collectors, and their generally quality is awful, and they're just making them for revenue. They're not actually using them for postage. So in 2018, for the 65th anniversary of the first Bond book, Casino Royale, which came out in '53. All of these countries, Sierra Leone, Guinea, Djibouti, the Central African Republic, Chad, Madagascar, Sao Tome and Principe, and the Maldives, all came out with these atrocious sets of stamps. As you can see, the one at the bottom right, I think, is meant to be Pierce Brosnan. It doesn't really look like Pierce Brosnan, but I guess it could be. So they're not. The ones with photographs are okay, but the ones where they've actually drawn them, get a better artist. So variations many, quality poor. Last slide and final slide, please. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.
Well done.
Incredible. Well done, Dick. Well done, Dick.